Hello and welcome to Mickey and Miller's Dallas Cowboys Google Plus Hangout, or the Cowboys Hour, if you will. I am Gina Miller alongside Mickey Spagnola. It's been about 2 weeks since we've done our Google Plus Hangout, but the masses have spoken, Mickey.
It must have been far too long.
Yes.
It's like, when are we getting another hangout? Well, we're hanging out today on this quiet Tuesday at the ranch.
Very quiet Tuesday at the ranch. But before we get going, we want to give a shout out to our friends watching not only here in North America, but across the pond, if you will, over in the UK to the UK Cowboys fan club.
They've been pretty good supporters here of late, and I think they're ramping up for that game in London and getting all excited about the Cowboys. So glad to have you mates aboard.
And I hope that you are drinking a pint, because we are teetotaling. I've got my Jamba Juice, and
I've got my Diet Mountain Dew around here somewhere.
So we're going to dive into it today. Here's how you can participate in the conversation. Right down below, you'll see this thing pop up on your screen. It says, ask a question. It's the Google Q&A app. You can ask us just about anything. We will answer your question live right here on the air. You can send us a message via Twitter. Mickey's trolling the tweets.
At Spags52, so please participate.
Oh, you've already got some in there.
I think I do, yes.
You do. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We'll answer your questions via Twitter. I've got my iPad here. It's all interactive. It's all good. It's all fun. And as Mickey said, it's all quiet here at Valley Ranch. That's because after minicamp concluded last week, Mickey, basically the coaches, the players, not the staff, because there are a lot of Cowboys staff members hard at work. Everybody takes some time off before training camp starts 1 month from today, as a matter of fact.
Amazing, isn't it? It's that close already, and it's almost scary, because I was sitting there going, well, we're going to get through this week and next week, and then I take a week's vacation, and then, oh, we're only a week from training camp. So wheels up July 22nd to head to Oxnard, California. This first training camp practice will be July 24th at the River Ridge Complex, and the Cowboys will go about 3.5 weeks there. It'll include, once again, a blue-white scrimmage game. Also, the Cowboys will, after their first, I believe it is after the first preseason game that next week, they will have 2 practice sessions against the Oakland Raiders, August 12th and August 13th. So those are some kind of red-letter days to kind of put down if you're planning on visiting the training camp in Oxnard, and we'll certainly be there. And Gina, as I tell everybody, when you see us, don't be afraid to say hi.
And people do.
Yes, they do.
Some people yell.
Right.
But most people say hi.
It's a good crowd. They're very astute on watching practice, and they know when people mess up, and when they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they'll let the players know, and they kind of get instant feedback.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
It is. It's a good scene. If you've never been, again, we said this in the last hangout, definitely take a moment to go. So here's what we have on tap. Mickey Spagnola knows the Kyle Orton contract situation. There's been some misinformation perhaps reported. Mickey talked to an individual who knows the ins and outs of the deal. He'll give you some insight on that. We're also going to talk about the Cowboys' offense in 2014. We know. We get it. This team has not yet played a down of football.
Right.
But you think you have a good idea, Mickey? Is that fair to say? And I don't want to dive into it now. Maybe just offer up a little bit of a tease. You think you have a good idea of what this offense needs to do to be successful?
I guess the question I was trying to get answered last week was, can this offense, which was pretty good last year if you go back and look, it gets over Nate, it gets overshadowed by the defense. The offense was pretty good, not from a yardage standpoint, but from scoring points. This team scored a lot of points. This team scored enough points to have gone 11-5, and I think that gets overlooked because of the problems they had defensively. So we'll go into that and answer that question: can this offense be better than what it was last year?
And then we'll kind of get into the complexion of this offense in 2014. Just how different will it be with Scott Linehan perhaps putting his stamp on this 2014 presentation? We'll dive into all of that and much more, but we got a lot of questions coming in. We certainly appreciate it. not a question, but a comment here from Cindy White. I have missed your show. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Way to go, Cindy.
We missed talking to you last week. The Cowboys had mini camp, and let's talk about what we saw last week at Cowboys mini camp. We didn't see Kyle Orton. We'll get into that in just a moment, but we did get a chance to see this team actually go through the motions together, offense versus defense. We got to see an early indication, a little bit of a tease of what we could see in 1 month from today at training camp in Oxnard.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I thought that they accomplished maybe most, because the majority of the players that had not been participating in the OTAs didn't participate in the mini camp. They still were very conservative with how they were handling these guys coming back from off-season surgeries, guys like George Selvey and Dwayne Harris. Also guys that might have tweaked something. They didn't want to exasperate it. That's a hard word. It's hard to say. Anyway, they didn't want to make it worse. How's that? So they held those guys out. But it gave us a good opportunity to see a lot more of the young guys. And in some of the periods they had, they threw in some of the young guys against young guys. And I think that was good for them to get ready. The last practice was at AT&T Stadium. It was a family day afterwards where they invite the players' wives, girlfriends, kids to have lunch afterwards. So that was a good practice there. For the people who bought tours, it was a lucky day, because I ran into some people and they were like, yeah, we were just on vacation and we were just coming here to take the tour, and lo and behold, they had a practice. So this guy thought it was his birthday. He thought it was just great. So anyway, 3 good practices. From what I could tell, no new injuries. Tony Romo, what they allowed him to do. No new injuries, even in a non-contact drill, right? Tony Romo was able to participate in the walkthrough team portions of the practice. He did individual drills. He tried to sneak into the team drills, and even though he changed uniforms and had on Caleb Haney's number 7 jersey, they kind of spotted the difference in the two and got him out of there. But he's ready to go when they start training camp. You know, maybe he doesn't take as many snaps as he normally would, but he will, it seems like, do everything that they ask him to do or need him to do to get ready for the season. So one of the things that I noticed in the 3-day practices is they had a little competition going on at a couple of the positions. At left guard, where Ron Leary and Mackenzie Bernardo have been alternating days working with the first team. They alternated days, and at times they alternated snaps with the first team. Now, not every other snap, but one guy would get 2 or 3, the next guy would get 2 or 3. So there's a legitimate competition going on at the left guard spot. And also at right tackle, I saw where Doug Free was starting to share snaps with Jeremy Parnell. So that was interesting to see. And they've got a little thing going on there. And I think Parnell, in the last year of his contract, has to be careful, because he has a $1.5 million base salary this year, all right? And Darian Weems, who is another young guy that they've been bringing along, this is his 3rd year. He's basically playing for the 3rd-year minimum, which was around $600,000. So to me, I think they're trying to see just what Jeremy Parnell is, because if he isn't $1.5 million as a backup, you got a cheaper option with Weems if Weems can play well. So I thought that was interesting that they were giving him some snaps with the ones just to go up against the first defense to see just how well he's doing. So that's one of the competitions that we certainly saw. The other thing on defense, I noticed that Jakar Hamilton, last year's rookie free agent, had started getting snaps with the second team. So that was an upgrade for him. And I think that he played awfully well in these mini camps, and keep an eye on him when we get to training camp. So those are a couple of the things we saw. I think we talked about Whedon getting better almost every practice, getting more comfortable with the offense. And a lot of the things what we need to see is when they get to training camp, when they actually put the pads on. They still had a rotation going at the middle linebacker spot, Justin Durant, with the first team in place of Sean Lee. They've also Devontae Holloman got back in practice, so he was taking the second team snaps. And the interesting thing is Anthony Hitchens, who had jumped in the middle when Devontae Holloman wasn't there, went back to the weak side with the second team. So that'll be a position of competition when we get to training camp.
One thing I noticed during OTAs and minicamp, and I think this is a testament to what the Texas Rangers are doing. What do I mean? There were more cars and more people here, it seemed like, at OTAs and minicamp than I believe I have ever seen before. This goes back to the Terrell Owens days when it was a 3-ring circus, in and out of here. That walkway or driveway along Valley Ranch was packed for more than half a mile, lined up with cars. There were so many people here, so many media here, as well as ancillary people trying to help everybody within the Cowboys organization get things done. I think it's a testament to the fact, Mickey, that the Rangers are reeling. Nobody wants to go cover the Rangers now. Them. Exactly. And so, yeah, all eyes are on the Cowboys at this point.
Can you say Frisco? They've outgrown this place.
Yeah, okay. And that's fair.
All the different things that go on here, they're in the middle of a mini camp. Remember, they have a kind of a medical center here. It's an MRI center. They had the cheerleaders kids camp going on.
Oh my.
And then all the other meetings and things that they had going here, along with the media trying to be here. And then you've got 90 players trying to get here, park their cars, and then just the normal people that work here. Yeah, it was overflow. I figured that the cars were going to be backed up all the way to the old Star Center down the block, which is about 2 or 3 blocks away.
Those were the good old days.
Yes.
I remember going from Valley Ranch right here.
It was easy for you, right?
It was so easy. That was in the Mike Modano days, who just first ballot Hall of Famer.
Congratulations to him.
One of the good guys
well
in
deserved.
In the Hockey Hall of Fame. Very happy for him. But now the Stars will benefit from the Cowboys being close by once again.
Once again, right? They'll probably all benefit from the Cowboys being out there.
All reverting back to the 90s. So lots of questions about a backup quarterback. And this isn't even a quarterback controversy. Kyle Orton is secure in his backup position. Yet because, Mickey, he was not at any of the off-season workouts, because he wasn't anywhere to be found, he's a hot topic. And let's go ahead and answer Gerald's question here. Thanks, Gerald, for logging on and submitting some questions to us this week. Mickey, for weeks on weeks, you kept saying on the talk show, Kyle was holding out for more money. Are you still sticking with that story? Now, before Mickey answers that question, you know the ins and outs of Kyle Orton's contract situation now. Is that correct?
Yes, and let me answer the question for him. I don't say I've been saying it for weeks and weeks. I said that there's 3 possibilities of going on here. 1, he wants to retire. 2, he's trying to force the Cowboys' hand to get out of here and play some else. And 3 was maybe it was a money grab, because he sees the situation here with a starting quarterback coming off back surgery, no one really else out there that was ready to be the backup, and he's going, I'm in the last year of my contract. I can maybe make a play here for a bigger contract. I didn't say that was exactly what he was doing. I said it was one of the 3 things that he possibly could be doing. The folks around here are just convinced that he's just not sure if he wants to play more football.
Really?
I mean, they're really convinced of that.
And that money is not a factor in this decision?
Well, here's where it factors in.
Okay.
He would love if the Cowboys just cut him.
Okay.
Okay? Because it's like, okay, there's $3.25 million in base salary I could be making, but if they cut me, I won't make it. No big deal. But if I retire, then the Cowboys have the right to go back and recoup signing bonus that he's already been paid. And he was paid a $5 million signing bonus. The original contract was a 5-year, $10.5 million contract that included $5 million signing bonus. So the proration of the signing bonus, the way they do the salary cap, is $1 million a year. Well, he's earned basically 2 of that $5 million. There should be another $1 million here, and then the contract was going to void, and then the other $2 million would come due the following year, 2015. Well, if the Cowboys go back and say, no, if you retire, we want you to pay us that money. So I think to them, it's one thing to forego making $3.25, but it's another thing to take your little pen here and write a check for $3 million. No one wants it. They'll forego money, but they don't want to give money back that they've already had.
So what sort of indication have the Cowboys gotten from Kyle Orton?
Well, they still think that he's going to be there for training camp. Now, they thought he'd be here for the mini camp.
Right.
Well,
did they really think that?
Yeah, they did, and that was a $70,000 hit off his base salary. So his $3.25 million base salary
it's not that
for this
much,
year
really. I mean,
take $70,000 off.
Relatively
so now
speaking, for a guy in that
I think it ends up being 3.1 something and change. So again, that's what his base salary is. So their feeling is he's not going to want to write that check back. Now, where a little bit of the confusion is that people were thinking if he retired and the Cowboys went and got that money, suddenly they would have a $6.25 million windfall under the salary cap. Not so fast, because it doesn't happen this year. So basically what would happen is that, sure, they don't have to pay his base salary, which is what I said, 3.175 for this year. They wouldn't have to pay that, so they get that back on the salary cap. But for the $3 million that they go back after, they don't get it all at once. It comes in 1-year increments over the next 3 years.
So it's not a big boost to the $8.5 million Dallas
Right. All of a sudden, there's not
now.
6.2 more million in the salary cap. You get the base salary back, but the rest of it you get back as you go. So next year in 2015, they'd get $1 million extra against the cap. 2016 and 2017. So you get it the year after if you recoup money from proration like that. Also, if the Cowboys trade him, it's still the same thing. If they decide to trade him, which means he doesn't have to give them anything back, then, and this would have happened anyway, there'll be $2.3 million in dead money next year. Regardless if they trade him, if they cut him, that would go into the cap next year. They already had that planned out, so that's no big deal. So I think the big thing is just don't think, oh, just get rid of them and we'll get $6 million back. That's not the way it works. Eventually you will, but you don't get it all at once.
So they really, in their heart of hearts, and I know you've spoken to people who actually have a clue on this, and not just speculators, is what we're hearing a lot of these reports coming out. The Cowboys really think that Kyle Orton will, in fact, be there in Oxnard. Is that an educated guess, or is that an indication they've received from him or his agent who's been in the building recently?
I think it's an educated financial guess that no one would write a check for $3 million out of your own bank account because they know the Cowboys will go. I think they've drawn the line, and they will go after that money. The other thing is he also has 5 days to play with at training camp before fines start kicking in. On the 6th day is when you can start fining guys for not being at training camp on time. So if you kind of do the math, sometime that second week, if he's not there, he starts getting fined, and then that fine comes off his base salary that they're being charged. So they recoup that as you go. You don't get it all back, but each week you would get a little bit more of his base salary, just like the base salary went down to 3.75 because he didn't show up for the minicamp.
Right. So how does all this affect what the Cowboys are doing right now? Well, let's talk about Brandon Weeden. Brandon Weeden has basically worked out at OTAs, worked out at minicamp, and gone into this whole thing as this team's backup quarterback now.
Yeah, and as we've been saying here on our hangout, he's got invaluable snaps with the first team.
Hasn't he? Yeah.
Tony not getting snaps because they're holding him back. Kyle Orton's not here, so the guy that was going to be third is now first. And the guy that's third just gets a handful of snaps. You don't get a whole bunch. So the fact that he's getting first-team reps, I think, has really helped him. He looks like he's more comfortable. I think the key thing on him is, and I don't know if Jason Garrett's being just guarded because he doesn't want to create any more friction with the Orton situation by being kind of even-keeled and not saying, yeah, we'll just go with Brandon Weeden, you know. And
Bill Parcells wouldn't have done that, would he? Bill Parcells would not have done that.
We'll just go with the next guy. Don't worry about that guy, you know. But he's been saying, he goes, Brandon Weeden just needs to play more football. And there's a measure of truth to that if you think about it. He started 2 years at Oklahoma State. He started the majority of 2 years at Cleveland that weren't real smooth, different offensive coordinator each year, different guys around him. So the fact that he didn't get a chance to kind of learn, he got thrown in right from the start with 2 years of experience. Is there another quarterback out there with only 2 years of college experience that was a first-round draft choice and thinks he might try to be a starter in Cleveland this year?
Even if you're a good quarterback,
it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. And I've seen it ruin good quarterbacks because they're forced to get out there these days. You can't sit around and kind of bring them along and let them learn because of the salary cap. It's like, well, you're a first-round draft choice. You're my starter. Go out and do it. Well, some guys don't learn at the same pace. I mean, if you think about it, when Roger Staubach got here, they didn't throw him right to the wolves. He needed a couple years before he became the first full-time starter. Danny White was here for 5 years before he became the starter. Yes, Troy Aikman did get thrown in there right from the start, 0-11, and if he wasn't such a tough guy, the beating he took could have destroyed his career also. From
a mental standpoint as well as physical standpoint, the makeup of these men has to be absolutely remarkable to withstand the criticism, the constant questioning and scrutiny that they get week in, week out, not to mention, the physical beating as well that a lot of these guys get. And it's a luxury to have a guy in the system and hold the clipboard and wear the baseball hat on the sideline before he comes on to be the starting quarterback.
Absolutely.
It's absolute luxury.
And I think so. From that aspect, I think Whedon's moved along nicely. Training camp would be important to him because if he's the second guy when they get to training camp, then he'll get more snaps than he would have as the third guy. And I think Tony Romo can attest to you that, when in 2004, he was going to be the fourth quarterback, right? Well, he didn't really had a chance to make the team, so how many snaps do you think he would have gotten? The ability to kind of move up the pecking order and get more snaps in training camp, because this is where you improve. Guys that aren't playing, that are on the practice squad or buried as a third teamer, they don't get better during the season because they don't get enough snaps during the week to be able to get better. They do a lot of watching, a lot of film work, but they don't actually get to do it. So this is the time young guys, and I say young, I should say inexperienced guys like Whedon can really improve during OTAs and during training camp.
So if you're a betting man, Mickey, and as long as I've known you, I don't know how much of a betting man
I'm
you
not
are.
a big betting man. It's hard for me to put my money on the line here.
I agree.
But what's the question?
I'd rather buy a pair of shoes. I don't gamble. I went to Lone Star Park last Friday, had some friends win a couple $1,000. Me, I just stood there and drank. That's what I do best, is drink.
Well, you invested in your money wisely.
I invested.
You got a return for it, right?
That's called a hangover. Yeah, it's exactly the return on my investment.
So this will be my horse racing story of why I don't bet. My dad told me the first time he ever went to a track, he had never gone to horse racing before, and he went with a cousin or an uncle or somebody, and they told him, well, you bet on this horse. This one's got good odds. He's going to win. So my dad said the horse was running around, and he's in the lead, comes down the home stretch, and it got to the finish line, and they're standing there, trying to figure out. He goes, "Where's my horse?" He goes, "Where's my horse?" And his relation points down the track, and he goes, "There it is. It fell."
Oh, no.
My dad never bet on another horse. He said, if that horse is depending on my money to eat, it'll starve to death.
Oh, that's awful.
It cured him. It cured him of betting.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, my gosh. Got a lot of questions rolling in here, and we will get to all of these questions. Hello to our friends over in the UK.
All right.
Got one. Jamie Smith has a question. Let's stick with offense right now. Evening from the UK to you both. It's probably about 7:20 or so. Hope you're enjoying a pint, Jamie. Out of Cole Beasley and Dwayne Harris, who is the more likely to get the third receiver spot behind Dez and Williams? Jamie,
well,
Cowboys fan.
Good question. And right now, the way they were practicing, and again, they were holding Dwayne Harris out of the offensive part of the OTAs in the minicamp. He did the special team stuff, but again, he's returning. So he's not in any jeopardy of running into somebody. But Beasley was the third guy. And interesting that they not only had him playing out of the slot, as you would expect, they had him lining up wide and Dez Bryant in the slot at times. So to me, they think that Cole Beasley can be a versatile guy. And right now, just because of the head start he got in the offseason, I think he has a step ahead of Dwayne Harris. Now, the other thing that factors in here is the Cowboys feel like Dwayne Harris, aside from the kickers, is the absolute best special teams player they have. And not just from a return aspect of returning punts and kicks, but also as a cover guy. And if you go back and look at the stats on special teams, he finished tied for second in special teams tackles. So they feel like if they give him too much in the offense, it'll take away from what he can do on defense. On special teams, there's only so many snaps a guy can take before you get diminishing returns. So if you factor that in, I think the majority of those third-team snaps right now are going to go to Cole Beasley. And talking to Brandon Weeden about Beasley in the slot, all of a sudden you get this big smile on his face, and he goes, "Boy, that guy's a quarterback's best friend." He goes, he just gets open. They can't cover him out of the slot. And we saw that out there, right? Yeah. And then when they put him outside, it wasn't like they were sending him down the field on these deep routes. They were sending him on these drag routes across the middle. I think Weeden called them buzz routes. And they're real quick things. So, again, if you got this guy on the outside and he's buzzing inside and at the slot where Dez is, and Dez is going downfield, now they can't drop a linebacker to protect the underneath stuff on Dez. They got to put a corner there, and if a safety's over a top, then that middle's wide open for a little guy to come dragging over the middle.
And Dez is still going to get all the attention and all the coverage, and I think Cole makes a lot of his money by virtue of just being on the same field as Dez Bryant. But in reality, how often do you think we're going to see Cole Beasley line up outside? He's proven his worth, and I'm not diminishing that. He's an effective slot receiver.
I think it'll happen more than it did last year. Let's put it that way. And think about it. He caught 39 passes last year. Normally, if you go back through Cowboy history, especially when they were winning Super Bowls in the 90s, and I know it's a different era, and I know they throw the ball a little bit more than they did back then, but the Cowboys never had a second receiver catch 39 passes. Now, somebody will say, well, that's because Michael Irvin was catching. Well, that's right, but he was catching, he caught 100 and I think it was 110 the one year, 95. But the other years it was 78, 90. The next receiver was Emmitt Smith in the 50s, then Jay Novacek in the 60s, and even Darrell Johnson was catching more passes than Elvin Harper was catching. So the fact that he caught 39 passes I thought was pretty significant. The other thing I also looked up, since we talk a little bit about the offense, is the fact that between Dez, Terrence Williams, who had 44 catches, and Beasley, 39 catches, it was only the third time in club history that they had three wide receivers with at least 39 catches, if you can believe that.
That's a testament to what this offense did last year, too, right?
Right, exactly. So again, I think that they really look at him as he's got a role on this offense.
He's such a fun guy to watch, too. Watching him emerge from this guy from Little Elm to the kid at SMU.
And let's explain what Little Elm is here.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's how do I say it? It's north of the colony, so I have to explain what the colony is, right? It's small.
It's a small Dallas suburb.
For when he was there, it was probably a 2A school and maybe 3A now. He ends up going to SMU, and he was a quarterback. I think his dad was the football coach, if I remember correctly, and he's a walk-on, as they say. He was a rookie free agent, 5'8", maybe. Because I think I think I can look him eye to eye.
Maybe.
And I certainly am not 5'8". But he's quick, he's fast, he understands routes, he understands where to settle in, where the quarterback can find him. I thought it was pretty indicative when he got on this team and people started asking June Jones about him, the SMU head coach, and June Jones basically said, this kid can play in the NFL. And June Jones coached in the NFL. He's been around the block or two in the NFL before he went into college at Hawaii and now SMU. And he doesn't have to throw smoke out there. He's not one of those types of guys.
He's not a BSer.
Yeah.
I know this for a fact.
And so I thought that was, it's like, okay, maybe this kid's got something. Let's keep an eye on him. And I think is kind of a long answer to the question, but I think he's got something.
Here is Little Elm. Here is Dallas, right here, City of Dallas proper. Here's Cowboys Stadium, right around here, AT&T Stadium in Arlington. So you'll see this is where we are, where it says Farmers Branch. We're technically in Irving, Texas. Valley Ranch is the neighborhood, if you will, where we like to say where we are. This is Little Elm right here, a tiny
right
little
off of Lake
city.
Louisville.
Yeah, it's tiny. It's a tiny little town, and Cole's a guy who likes to take advantage of having grown up on a lake. He likes to fish. He likes to get out on the boat, likes to enjoy everything that Texas has to offer. And I think we forget also, you remember when he came to training camp making his first year, he went home. He didn't know if the NFL was for him. He left Cowboys training camp in Oxnard, went home, probably got a decent little talking to.
I would have thought
parents.
Mom and Dad said, excuse me.
This is an opportunity you do not waste. And the Cowboys left that door open for him to come back, which surprised the crap out of me, to be honest with you.
Came back in a couple days. They let him settle down. And, you know, it was a rough start. He had a couple bumps and bruises. And I think, cooler heads prevailed on both sides.
Yeah.
And came back and did a really nice job and put Little Elm on the map. You know what? I used to go to Little Elm. There was a you said fish. There was a seafood place called the Red Carpet Inn, and we used to go there, and it was one of the few places in town that they actually cooked a whole catfish for you.
Okay.
The whole thing. You know, not the head. But tail, bones inside, and these people could cook too, by the way.
This is one of those things that we like to say was back in the day.
Back in the day, it was back in the 80s and 90s.
And I'll tell you something funny about Cole Beasley. You know, as good of a football player as he is, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's an outstanding basketball player, too. He can actually dunk a basketball. And like Mickey said, he's probably 5'7" with heels on, if you know what I mean. But that kid can dunk a basketball. He's a big Kobe Bryant fan, to which I just... he's a big fan of whatever team Kobe's on. I'm like, you're not a Mavs fan? But I like Kobe. I'm one of the few who do. Kobe's a great guy.
So since we're on offense, I got a tweet here from Corey M. Jordan at Corey42801. He said, "Is there any reason to believe Jason or Scott Linehan saying they will have a balanced pass-run ratio this year to help Tony and the defense?" I think it depends on. I think that's their intention, okay? But sometimes the best laid plans don't always work out. So it's a matter of how efficient are you doing both. And if you look at Linehan, when he was in offensive coordinator in Minnesota, they did a pretty good job of running the football. Last year, Detroit rushed for more yards than they had in quite some time. So he did a nice job there. So intentions, yes, I do believe them. Now, will it pan out? Will you have to score 30 to 40 points a game to win? If your defense is faltering, then you got to score. You can't sit there and just say, okay, I'm going to hand it off. And the big thing on the running game is it's one thing to gain yards. It's another thing to run the ball into the end zone from afar. Like, get me a 20-yard touchdown run. The Cowboys rarely, if ever, do that. I know DeMarco Murray had 9 rushing touchdowns last year. Well, that was the most rushing touchdowns they've had since 2007 when Marion Barber had 10, and they were just handing Marion Barber the ball on the goal line. His rushing yards, he had nearly, I believe it was 1,200. It was the most rushing yards, that many rushing yards. The only one who's had more than that was Emmitt Smith, and I think it was back in 2000. So, again, they ran the ball better last year. Now, can you continue to do that? If you continue to do it, then you can continue to run the football if you're not falling behind and needing to score 38 points a game to win.
And we are going to get into that in just a moment. Shocking you didn't mention Darren Hambrick anywhere in there.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Shocking to me. One quick question here I want to answer from Gerald Bell, who simply asks, appreciate your questions, Gerald. Practice is open for the press during a certain time. What aren't you seeing at practice when it's not open to the press? I think we have to dispel a myth there that we can go out and watch practice when it's not open to the majority, to the media.
Yeah, and here's what happens. During OTAs, they practice 3 times a week, and the media they allowed to watch 1 practice, but you got to watch the whole practice. Sure. Minicamp, we got to watch 3 full practices. It's during the season that we don't get to watch the entire practice. Matter of fact, we get out there for 20 minutes, and it's basically individual drills, stretching,
and
kind of special teams. Yeah,
it's not sexy.
And that's it. So, yeah, we don't get to see the entire practice. Now, at training camp, we get to watch the entire practice. We get to, see everything. The fans that show up can see everything. The only thing that they don't, have the fans attend is the morning walkthrough, which is basically a 1 hour. It's kind of a meeting on the field. They don't eat ball caps, T-shirts, and shorts, and they kind of go through a walkthrough of what they're going to do in the evening practice. So the morning practice has not been open to the public. The evening practice that starts at 4 is open, and we get to watch all the practices during training camp.
Yeah. So basically, when practice is closed, people at Valley Ranch, except for maybe Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and select individuals, basically when practice is closed here at Valley Ranch, we're not out there hanging out.
Right.
We respect every single rule that is laid down by Jason Garrett, the Cowboys PR team, any of the coaching staff. There's no real special access. I mean,
Anybody opens the door and just peeks sometimes?
I'm not saying that that individuals in this studio haven't done that in the past. Now, I'm not saying that they have. I'm just saying that everybody in this room I know respects the rules and wishes of the Dallas Cowboys and their coaching staff.
And you don't learn enough to take the
And
risk.
that's the thing. And quite frankly, and that's the thing. Is it worth jeopardizing the relationship you have with these people to sneak a peek? No. So basically, everything that you guys get the chance to see via the video that we show you or the pictures that we show you or the broadcasts that you may see, the live coverage of practices, that's basically what we see as well. We do get to see a little bit more because we're actually out there physically and in person, but it's not any more special access when practice is closed to the media. Just to clear that up, because I know people have asked that before in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and frankly, football practice is kind of boring.
It is boring. And to channel Allen Iverson, we are talking about practice. It is not sexy. It is a lot of cussing.
See, it's like, and there's nothing tangible that takes place. Like in baseball, you go out for batting practice, well, you can see them hit the ball.
Oh, and you can see them at full speed.
In basketball, they actually practice, go up and down the court. You can see how they're going. Here, it's kind of a rehearsal.
Right.
Now, the pads are on once a week, but there's nothing, it's not like they have play it out the entire time. It's like you run this play, and then you run this play. And that play has no bearing on what you did, so there's not like this movement going down the field. Now, when they do 2 minutes, it's kind of fun to watch. And those are the kind
run,
those are the kind of the fun things at training camp to keep an eye on. And Jason will, in training camp, will do some situational things where he'll put the ball at the 35-yard line, 1:57 on the clock. You don't have any timeouts. You're down by 4. Now you got to go.
Yeah.
And so then they play football. And if they stop them, then the second team comes and gets their chance. So that's kind of fun to watch because something tangible's happened. But normally, all they are is just rehearsing plays.
It is. Baseball is pretty much the most open access in terms of sports you can watch because even basketball practice, you get to go down there while players are generally shooting free throws. You don't get to see a lot. And you get to hear Dirk, for example, say, "Oh, I got you," as Dirk hits like 30 free throws in a row because we know he can do that. Baseball batting practice is great to watch. Spring training,
even hockey's
great.
They turn it on. They're playing, right?
And hockey. Let me tell you how many times I went over to that Star Center right across the street, or the one up in Frisco. Players will see you there, and you know what they do? They shoot a puck right at you, right in the face, and it's just the most shocking thing. And any of you have been at a hockey rink, you know what that's like.
Self-control you have.
Oh my gosh, of course, I start cussing left and right. But enough about the other sports. Let's focus on the Dallas Cowboys because you are watching Mickey and Miller's Cowboys Hour. We're about 37 minutes into our broadcast here on this Tuesday, live from the Cowboys TV studios at Valley Ranch. So glad that you are joining us. If you're joining us live, please, we encourage you to join the conversation with the Google Q&A app you see right down below. If you're watching us in the future, perhaps archive on YouTube, thanks so much for taking out some time. Let's talk about this 2014 Dallas Cowboys offense because, Mickey, if the offense can replicate what it did in 2013, which was almost historic in a good way, and the defense can improve, this could be a very good football team. Last year, the Cowboys offense was required to score so many points because the defense gave up so many points that it really overshadowed what this team was able to accomplish from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, and we can start with they lost the game, they scored 48 points in. They lost the game that they scored 36 points in, and they lost the game that they scored 30 points in. So they also lost the game they scored 28 points.
And these are all things that, by the laws of averages, and as much football as we've seen, these things don't happen.
Especially in the NFL.
Exactly.
You scored that many points.
Exactly.
That's a win, right?
Exactly. And that maybe lends itself to a bigger question. Is this the direction the NFL is headed? Yeah, that's a conversation probably for another day, but I think it's one that may be bearing discussion.
So it just kind of dawned on me when I was looking at it, and I'm sitting there going, well, you know, Zach Martin's the real deal, and from everything I've heard, he is, he'll be one of the best offensive linemen taken in this draft. So that improves your right guard spot. You've got a little depth now at left guard. Travis Frederick played awfully well. Free played well last year. Tyron Smith goes to the Pro Bowl. So to me, this offensive line just got better. Okay, the running backs. Lance Dunbar's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then
Linehan likes him, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. It's like his little toy that he can, kind of do little different things with. They picked up Ryan Williams, the running back, with DeMarco Murray. His first 1,000-yard season looks like it's in pretty good hands. We talked about the wide receivers and the impact they had last year. It looks like Jason Witten's still Jason Witten, and watch out for Gavin Escobar. Linehan likes him. The quarterbacks like him. As a matter of fact, that was another guy that caused a smile on Brandon Weeden's face. He goes, watch out for this Escobar guy, because it's a serious mismatch when we put him in the slot because of his size.
Yeah.
He's gotten bigger. He's gotten more comfortable. So if it comes down to if Tony Romo is Tony Romo, and remember, he was pretty darn good last year. He had 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He had a quarterback rating of 96, which is pretty darn good. Then my question was, can this offense be better than it was last year? I asked Tony Romo, had him off to the side. He says yes. And he says, and I don't have any qualms about saying that. He said, this could be our best offense since I've been here. And let's remember, 2007, they were pretty darn good when they went 13-3. But he thinks that they got so many playmakers, which was the word Jason Witten used to describe, that there's so many different ways to attack that they can be pretty good. And when Stephen Jones was asked about this offense and wanted to be how good can it be, he said, I think we have a chance to have an elite offense. So there's some optimism on this offense that it can be pretty good. And last year, as I said, it was pretty darn good. They scored 439 points last year, and that was a significant increase over what they've been. I think it was the most points they had scored since the 2007 season when they went 13-3, and it was the second most points since 1983. So think about that. That was the second most points in 30 years they scored. Now again, we're adding in returns, defensive, whatever, but from a team, 439 points. Now, Denver knocked it out of the park last year. They scored 606, okay? That was an NFL record. The second highest scoring team in the league was the Chicago Bears at 445.
And the Cowboys scored 439.
So that's only 6 more than the Cowboys were 5th. So there was 4 teams that were averaging 27 points something, okay? So they weren't far off the pace of what the top offenses or teams were scoring last year. And it's like we forget that. It's like, yeah, they were pretty good. You know, Des Bryant was pretty good. Tony Romo was pretty good. You know, what might have happened if he got to play the last game? They scored 22 points without him. You know, what might have happened if he was in there? DeMarco Murray was pretty good. The offensive line was better. So are they going to regress? I don't think so. And they didn't lose anybody. So to me, you know, I was joking last year at one point. I said, well, you know, they said, what are you going to do with this team? I said, well, you better score 30-something to win.
And you were joking.
and about halfway through the season, I said, well, you know, maybe you need to score 30-something more. And then when I saw what happened to the defense and who was missing, and I'm going, well, this year maybe 40-something, huh? Is that out of the question? And it probably is, because that would be an NFL record for points scored in a season. But again, I think they have the ability to score. Now, can you play enough defense to give your offense the opportunity to win a game with 28 points?
Okay, what gives you confidence on the defensive side of the ball that what you in fact just said can be true.
Can I say what Jerry said? It can't be any worse than last year.
Okay, fair point. Although we've said that in the past,
right.
And it has been.
Right.
After the 2012 season, we thought, it can't get any worse. Well, you know what?
They went all the way to 32nd. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but to be serious, I think if you look at how they finished the season last year, the defense right now, personnel is better. Nothing against DeMarcus Ware, but DeMarcus Ware wasn't the DeMarcus Ware of 2010 and 2011. He was beat up. He had an elbow that was in need of surgery, okay? And so DeMarcus Ware sort of was turned into just another guy. They were beat up on the defensive line. Same thing next year. No Sean Lee. Sean Lee wasn't there at the end of the season. He's not going to be there for this entire season. That scares you right there. But I think that they're with George Selvey and Tyron Crawford back, I think that they found something in this Terrell McClain as a defensive tackle. And the key thing to me will be not so much replacing Sean Lee, which is big, is can Henry Melton play to the Pro Bowl level he played at in 2012 with the Bears before he tore his ACL last year? If that guy's the real deal, I think more so from not just from a sack standpoint, because I know Jason Hatcher had 11 sacks. This guy can give you, I think, 8 to 10 sacks, but down in and down out, he's going to be a force against the run. So I think you can improve on this line just from a depth standpoint. I mean, they were playing with guys off the couch last year.
Basically,
at least this year, maybe they got enough depth to take these guys to, that are here right now practicing with them. Take them to a game. You
have to understand why there is cautious optimism.
Yes,
in
absolutely.
Regard.
Because if you look at it, if you're looking at the front seven, who's your best player?
You were going to say it was Sean Lee, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
And Justin Durant is now your starting middle linebacker.
At today.
And that can change. We get it.
You got a pen here. You can get some pencil on that one.
Exactly.
And you know what? And he understands it too.
Justin Durant.
He understands that. Excuse me. The reason he's the first guy out there now is kind of this, and the NFL does this a lot. Deference to veteranship, whatever the word would be. He's the oldest guy. He's got the most experience, so they put him out there. But when we get to training camp, it'll be interesting to see, because I think deep down they want Devontae Holloman to win that job.
Okay.
But he's going to have to win it.
Right.
But again, who's your best guy in the front seven? Who's the most proven guy? Well, it's Henry Melton coming off ACL surgery. So again, he should be ready to go. I know. And the other guy you're counting on is Tyron Crawford coming off a torn Achilles. And George Selvey had the year of his career. Now, can he do that again? So, and then you're starting another guy at strong side linebacker who just basically played at the end of the year last year, Kyle Wilbur, who transferred in from a defensive end spot.
Right.
So again, there's a lot of question marks, and that's why I think this training camp is going to be very revealing to if this defense can improve enough. You don't have to be top 15. Just don't be bottom 30.
Because the Cowboys are going to score 40 points a game.
That's right. Absolutely. You've heard it here.
One question from Aaron Winland, one of our UK Cowboys fans who is watching us. We appreciate you logging on today. Can you tell me just how much practice Matt Johnson has gotten so far? I'm really intrigued to see what he can do. Isn't that an interesting one?
So are we,
Big
because I think he practiced a couple times and started getting sore hamstrings, and they shut him down right away. They didn't want to take any chances. They want him ready for training camp, so we'll see what happens. No mini camp, and I want to say the last 2 weeks of OTAs he wasn't practicing because of sore hamstrings. So we're anxious to see exactly what you're wanting to see, and I'm sure that'll be a focal point of everybody watching training camp practice.
That is a good question, and thank you, Aaron, for your question. Please feel free to join in the conversation if you are watching us online live via Google+. I got to say, Mickey, if I hear more about sore hamstrings and tight hamstrings, I mean, and granted, Mike Woysick would kick my ass, but there's no excuse for this. There really isn't. I mean, this is a conditioning issue, and I realize everyone's body is different. These are muscular men we're referring to, and it's hard to get muscles loosened and lengthened, especially as how hard as these guys work out. But there's no excuse for having all of these tight hamstring issues. There are now ballet bars outside the locker rooms at Valley Ranch. These players do yoga. I think it's 12:45 on Tuesdays during the off season when workouts were still going on.
Right.
There's no excuse for that. If I keep hearing about sore hamstrings, it's kind of like the Rangers. We heard Nelson Cruz and his hamstrings all the time when he was in Arlington playing with the Texas Rangers. Now he's in Baltimore, tearing it up. No sore hamstrings there.
Number one, they've got to listen and hydrate.
That's a big deal.
That's one of the biggest problems with pulled hamstrings. If you're dehydrated, if you're not properly hydrated, if you don't have enough electrolytes, it's easy for those hamstrings to go because they get sore from just the amount of work you end up doing. Number two, stretching has to be serious. You can't just sit there and play grab ass when it's time to stretch.
And they'll play grab ass.
Yeah, just be serious about it. You mentioned the ballet bars they put up outside the locker room there, between the outside of the locker room and where you go to the training room. So they've got signs up on different stretches you can do. They're having them do that. They're warming up differently. Instead of being all out in the field spread out, they've got them lined up down the sideline, and they're actually stretching and running, stretching and running. So they've changed that routine up.
Loosening,
and not that they were doing anything wrong. I think it's like, you know what, let's just try something different because what we've been doing didn't work.
I could get in there. I could stretch those guys. I can do the splits up and down this wall right now. I could get those guys more flexible.
And a lot of these guys it's a physiological thing. They just have tight hamstrings, and you really got to work to stretch them out. And
it's hard.
I never had hamstring problems, but as you got older, and I'd go out and play softball, and you're not used to running full speed, and all of a sudden it's like, we've had in training camp the guys in the media, and they're in their 40s, right? We're gonna have 40. We're gonna run 40-yard dashes, and I'm going.
This is funny.
You go ahead and run the 40-yard dash. I'll be at the end when you pull your hamstring, right? And I swear to God, one by one, they'd all pull their hamstrings at the end, and they'd all be bragging how fast they are. But if you don't warm up and you're not used to running full speed like that, it happens in baseball.
All the time.
They're not used to running. What, 99? If you inside the park home run, what is that? 360 feet? They're not used to running like that.
You know what comes to my mind? Benji Molina hitting the triple in Boston when he hit for the cycle. He had a triple to hit for the cycle, and Benji Molina trotted.
Coming in he couldn't make
Fenway Park. I was at that game, actually.
Third base, right? It was a triple,
Barely.
Right? Yeah.
And he didn't run. He trotted. Maybe that's what these guys should do.
Yeah,
they should
just
trot.
Well, you just got to get used to sprinting. And I think part of Miles Austin's problem is he needed to concentrate on it more and work on it more, because once those things get sore, it's really hard to reverse it unless you're just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah. So the takeaway, stretch, and have some potassium and hydrate too. That takes care of it.
If you have to drink liquid potassium, drink it.
What do you think in 2014 will be this team's biggest position of strength?
At this point, I would say the offensive line. I think if they stay healthy, the running back position can be pretty good. We mentioned DeMarco Murray, who had a higher average per carry than any running back in the NFL, with at least 119 carries, so 119 or more. So I'm not talking about the guys that carried the ball 70 yards and got an 8.3 average. I'm talking about the guys that were full-time running backs. His average was higher than everybody else's with at least 119 carries. I think if Dunbar stays healthy, he's a good addition. And between Joseph Randall and Ryan Williams, I think they've got at least a third, maybe a fourth guy. They could be pretty good. So I think the offensive line, I think the running back's pretty strong. The quarterback position, does Romo, kind of, you just judge him as the quarterback, or is it the whole thing? If Orton's there, quarterback position's pretty darn good if you have all three of those guys, including Brandon Weeden. And I think this wide receiver position has a chance to be pretty darn good as long as they stay healthy. Terrence Williams, 44 catches. Only 2 Cowboy rookie wide receivers have ever had more their rookie year. Des Bryant had 63. And some guy named Bob Hayes had 46.
Bullet Bob Hayes, I believe.
Right, yes. So not even Michael Irvin in his rookie year had 44
Alvin
catches.
Harper. I mean,
No,
let's look at those guys. Yeah.
So, you know, Drew Pearson, Tony Hill, Butch Johnson. There's some good receivers that play here, but never had a year like that. So can he do that? And he's going to get a little more attention this year.
Yes.
Because obviously they're doubling Dez, and it's like, it's a rookie. We'll just, you know, man cover him, single cover him, and take our chances. Well, he made some people pay for it. So now he might get a little bit more attention, but he's got to continue to make plays when they call on him. That's what I look at for, like, the third receiver and the second tight end. It's not volume. It's when you're producing. Can you produce when they need you, when they got to go to you? Can you get open? And I think that's the biggest thing. I think
the depth of the receiver position is really intriguing. I think that's a definite.
And I haven't even mentioned Dwayne Harris, who's pretty darn good. And let's not forget the rookie Devin Street, who I think is mature beyond his years. And I think that they've got another legitimate outside threat there as long as he can stay healthy. He's a little thin, but that'll improve as his career goes along. But he catches everything. I like that about it.
I think the team is going to have some perhaps tough decisions to make when it comes to receiver. I think offensive line is set because that is going to be an area of strength on this team for years to come. I love what they've done there. Ooh, that defense. Still not 100% convinced. I'm going to have my eye on it at training camp, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are additions on this defensive side of the ball.
I think that they certainly will keep an open mind to see if there's any situations where guys get released. And again, if you and Stephen Jones mentioned this, you know, if you look at the draft and see where teams took, say, a linebacker in the first round or the second round, well, that guy's going to bump somebody off the team that was already there probably. So now, are there, you know, leftovers better than what I'm trying to play with? Maybe so. And you get it at a very economical cost because of the fact that, oh, this guy's out of a job, you know, and if somebody's still sitting around, they want to play, well, you know, whatever you offer me, I'm playing
and for. Someone could be a great fit.
Yeah.
They really, and I know we say, oh, there's a reason he's on the street right now.
Right.
Sure, that's
and
the
there
case.
is, absolutely.
There is. But for sometimes there can be a great fit with a different team. A guy can come in and fits perfectly in the system, so you really never know until they get in there and they try and figure it all out. 1 month from today, Mickey, you will be in Oxnard, California.
I was thinking today was the 23rd. It is
now
the 24th.
It's the 24th. Can you believe it?
24th already.
Yeah, we'll have the opening press conference in just a month. and
less than a month, because that'll be on the 23rd.
So, yeah, a month from yesterday. We'll have the big opening press conference. It'll be a pep rally. It'll be exciting. We'll have you covered.
Grand opening for training camp, and we'll be there.
We'll be there. I will not be here for the next 2 weeks. I will actually be on a ship in the Mediterranean Sea. I'm going to see if my Wi-Fi works, though, and I'll do this. I'm serious. I will be there, perhaps with a cocktail in hand.
Right.
But I'll be there. I'm totally game for.
If you talk me through it, I'll be here next week for sure.
I'm not sure where I'll be.
But the week after that, I won't be around.
Let's see. Where are you going?
I'm going to the mountains.
Ah, very nice.
I'm going to go find something cool.
Without any Wi-Fi access?
Well, hopefully where I'm staying it's got Wi-Fi.
Okay.
But, you know, once we get into the mountains, though, although that might look like good background.
It would be pretty nice.
If we can coordinate our computers here for an hour.
I'm game if you are. And you tell me, I can broadcast from Barcelona, Rome. I'm trying to think what the itinerary is. Barcelona,
I want Rome.
You want Rome? Now, I've never been to Rome before.
Oh.
Now, I've done Florence and Naples and Venice.
I need to give you an in-service then.
You do.
Yes.
You do, because I need some. I'm studying up on Rome. Barcelona, I can write a book on Barcelona, but Rome, I'm anxious to visit. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
This was fun. This was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I took a week off last week. I couldn't make it out here. I'm disappointed.
Busy schedule, and you know, we'll figure something out for training camp.
Life gets in the way.
That's right.
We are here for you. You can always keep in touch with us online on just about every single social media platform.
Sure, and absolutely. And if if something occurs to you at Spags52, ask a question. And I say, ask the question. Don't be afraid of the answer.
Mickey is also on Google+. That's a great way to engage and interact. I'm on Google+. We're all on Facebook. We're all on Twitter. We're on Pinterest, Instagram, although you need to get on Instagram.
I guess I do, huh?
You do.
I don't take enough pictures, I think, to make it worthwhile.
All the cheerleaders take a lot of pictures
on
they
Instagram. Sure take a lot of pictures.
Yes, they are all on Instagram.
Well, there's a good reason for that also, by the way.
And they're quite popular on Instagram as well. So thank you so much for joining us. If you're joining us live, whether you're joining us from the UK or right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We hope you enjoyed the time. If you're watching this via YouTube, maybe a few days after we broadcast this live on June 24th. We really do appreciate you logging on and clicking the play button. Again, keep in touch with us. Mickey, you're at?
Spags52.
I am at That Sports Girl. So until next time, we will see you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Mickey and Miller's Cowboys Hour.
See ya.